Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to some news regarding the 2021 calendar. I suppose a mixture of good and bad news for the first video on the channel this year. Now, it has been rumoured for a few weeks that the Australian Grand Prix was set to be postponed, and there was also uncertainty around the Chinese Grand Prix, with the promoters from each event requesting a later date in the year for races to go ahead due to the rising COVID cases in Europe. And in the case of the Australian Grand Prix organisers, the logistical challenges of building the Albert Park circuit during a pandemic. But this morning it has been confirmed that both the Australian and Chinese Grand Prix have officially now been postponed. As a result, the race in Melbourne has been moved to the 21st of November, with the Brazilian Grand Prix being moved forward a week and the race in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi being pushed back a week to make room for it, meaning the season will now start in Bahrain on March 28th and finish on December 12th. As for the race in Shanghai, no new date has yet been agreed, with F1 saying that talks are still ongoing. Or rather than ongoing, I suppose ongoing would make a little bit more sense at that point anyway. But it has also been confirmed that teams will once again return to Imola instead. That will make the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix the second round of the season, following obviously the opener in Bahrain, and it will take place across the weekend of April 16th to 18th. And although not officially announced just yet, it is believed that Portimao will also make it onto the 2021 calendar to fill the slot vacated by Vietnam on May the 2nd. That would ensure the season still consists of the record-breaking 23 races scheduled, and if China does get rescheduled itself, that could even lift the calendar to 24. Although I have to say I find it unlikely it will be rescheduled, because where do you put it? I mean, as it stands, the Australian Grand Prix in November is now the only standalone event post-summer break, with 3 triple headers now confirmed and a double header to round off the season. But secondly, we're still in the middle of a pandemic and there's no guarantees that any of these races are going to go ahead as planned, so I guess you never know, but watch this space. The official statement from F1 added that it is expected fans will be able to attend races later in the year, and the sport will, quote, continue to work closely with promoters and partners to monitor the ongoing COVID-19 situation and look forward to the start of the season in March. A very similar rhetoric to this time last year, or at least February last year. And if, by the way, you'd like to have a read of that statement in full, you can find it linked in the description down below. So is this news surprising? No, not in the least bit. When the calendar was published late last year, I think most people were sceptical about Australia going ahead as planned, and China as well. It is good to see Australia get a date for later in the year, but as I've already said, I think China will get cancelled outright at some point. Of course, it's not great news that we're already seeing the calendar get reshuffled and races postponed, but the difference this year versus last year is that contingency plans have been made and put into place quickly, and so there is already a bit less uncertainty. I say a bit less because I wouldn't be totally shocked if other races get called off too, but it's only January and we don't know what the situation will be come the spring, for example. But looking at the calendar, I reckon the next potential stumbling block will be Monaco, Baku and Canada, given the lead times needed for building the tracks as well as any potential travel restrictions. All in all, though, I am sort of pleased to see Imola back, at least from a nostalgic point of view, as I said a few times last year, but I have to say, it didn't really throw up a great race in 2020, did it? And I would much rather have seen Turkey, for example, back. But it's better than nothing, and should other events get the chop, it will make fitting a season of decent length in a little bit easier if they have to reshuffle again later in the year. However, if it's true, I am very pleased to see that Portugal is set to follow it and fill that TBC slot. I love that track. That's not all the calendar news though. Brace yourself for some huge and very exciting news. A deal has been agreed that confirms the Spanish Grand Prix will be on the calendar as scheduled in May. And as if that wasn't enough to excite you on this Tuesday morning, circuit bosses added that they will continue to work with F1 to secure a new long-term contract. Look, I'm not going to claim to love the racing we see at that track, but it's hardly a great shock that organisers want to see the race stick around. I don't know if you've heard, but this year sees the return of Fernando Alonso, which will be very good for business, of course. And on top of that, Carlos Sainz will be racing in a Ferrari. So with 2 Spanish drivers on the grid, of course, they want to keep the event on the calendar long term. Just if F1 is determined to keep this as well, don't hold testing there. That's all I ask. If you want to hold testing in Barcelona, don't race there. If you're going to race there, don't hold testing. And actually, on the subject of winter testing, there is talk that it will move to Bahrain this year, with the FIA, F1 and teams currently discussing possible dates. It has been reported that some teams are seeking an early 3-day test in March, with others wanting it to take place as close to the opening round as possible. And according to Motorsport Week, the test is likely to shift to March 12th and run until March 14th, with other outlets saying similar. That, though, is speculation really, and there has been no official word from F1 just yet, but I think it's looking pretty nailed on that testing will be mid-March in Bahrain. That is it for the calendar news, but that's not all the news. It's been a busy start to the week. It was announced yesterday that Cyril Abiteboul is leaving Renault. Abiteboul had been expected to take on the role of CEO of the Alpine brand, however, Group Renault has confirmed the Frenchman's departure, with Laurent Rossi taking on the job instead and will be taking charge of Alpine cars, sports, F1 and competition activities. Abiteboul initially worked with the company straight after university and began working for the F1 team in 2007. He moved on to Caterham in 2012 as team principal, but returned to Renault in 2014 as managing director of Renault Sport F1 and played a pivotal role in getting the manufacturer back on the grid for the 2016 season. He's been around a while, and last year led the team to a total of 3 podiums and 5th in the Constructors' Championship. And speaking about his departure, Cyril Abiteboul said that he felt he was leaving behind solid foundations that leave the team on the right path, and went on to thank Luca Di Meo for, quote, involving me in the construction of the Alpine business unit, and I wish the new structure every success. So, Cyril is out, but who will take on the role of Alpine team principal? Well, there has been no official word at time of recording. I feel like I've said that about a lot of things in this video, but anyway. However, it is rumoured that Marcin Bukowski, the team's current executive director, will be given the opportunity. Apologies if I butchered that name. And finally, super quickly, McLaren has confirmed that it has signed an option to enter the Formula E World Championship in Season 9, which takes place across 2022-23. McLaren applied as the exclusive battery supplier to Formula E, and as a result of that, the team has not been allowed to join the series with that contract in place. However, that deal comes to an end following the 2021-22 campaign, and so as a result, the team would be allowed to join the series if it chose to do so. And if it did choose to do so, it would be alongside Formula One, not instead of. That decision, officially at least, is likely to be a little while off yet, as the team's announcement went on to say that it will continue to evaluate the feasibility of entering the series throughout 2021 before deciding whether or not to proceed. Either way, it is big news for both McLaren and Formula E, especially when you consider the latter is still coming to terms with the decisions of both Audi and BMW to withdraw from the series at the end of the coming season. Will McLaren go ahead with an entry though? Well, only time will tell, but given it already competes in IndyCar and there's even talk of a future WEC entry too, it is absolutely very possible. Interesting times ahead for McLaren, so again, watch this space. That is it for this one though, but you can let me know your thoughts on any of the stories featured today down in the comments section. And which circuit would you like to fill that TBC calendar slot? It can be as realistic as you like or as wild as you like. I'm quite happy with Portimao personally, but I quite like Turkey as well, or even the Nürburgring. I don't mind. Now, I will be back soon with another video, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can, of course, follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.